Alright, people of the internet, welcome back to another episode of House of Discovery. And I think by today, you should have already seen a lot of things about the rumors around iPhone 18 Ultra or iPhone Foldable, different names, but they have models, dummies, leaks, and many people are talking about it. The whole internet somehow, I think at this stage, agrees that it will be just an iPad that you can fold in half and put in your pocket. I think that's right, but that's the least interesting thing in my eye to talk about it. So you've now following my last episode where we think how the origin of the foldable coming from and how Apple will approach it. I think just kind of continuity from the last one, that the real story isn't what Apple will build. It might 90% already there. It is how or the order they are going to build it. And I think that order, the steps they're gonna take, is quietly going to fix the problem the whole industry, the previous brands, the company has been stuck on for the past 5 years. So as designers, we always ask questions, and then there are some questions and some critical questions. A lot of people is asking like what this thing is, this foldable iPhone. Is it a phone, is it a pad, or it is something in between? I think if looking from a designer's perspective, I would prefer to ask a more correct question. A designer's thinking will be like this. If a blank OS design task lands on my desk, how should it be approached? How the operating system of such device should be designed, and what steps, what order am I going to take? So you've seen the people talking about this foldable iPhone leaks from other channels. They pull up all kinds of leak information, images, models, dummies, and they look at the camera's bumps, the crease, the screen, the corners. They are all reading a spec sheet. But here, with me, we don't need this spec sheet, we don't read that. We read the actual decisions, the design decisions that go behind them. So all the leaks, they're gonna tell you what iPhone is going to build. They're gonna tell you what Apple is going to build, but they never show why or what is the order that they took to approach this product. Or maybe with all the leaks happening on the internet recently of iPhone 18, it may be a different thing, but that's a totally different topic or case. I don't want to dig deeper into it. So when we ask about the order you are putting on the designer's perspective, and then that is going to be the whole valuable story. So quote or think that in this way is that how should they design the device like this? And then what do you design first is the golden question you should ask. Like how I would approach on many of the classes I give to my students and the audience, we somehow come with a comparison of two different approaches. And this one, I call it the screen first or the experience first. So we've seen many other foldable products, and then they are coming from the approach that is screen first, is to start from what we got and then how do we do with it. So they got a foldable big screen, and which unluckily I still don't have one on my hand. And now, what do we put in it? What's the software? And what does the OS do? Oh, let's just enlarge everything, pull the buttons and then the bars and the screens just sort of bigger, stretch it bigger, and then to fill the split screen and then put all the features in. Then, like I discussed in the previous episode, you got this problem called conflicting affordance, and it become a kind of problem. Conflict is somehow happening outside the window. But what's the other approach? Well, from my perspective, Apple, if they make a foldable phone, I kind of assume they're going to use the experience first approach. Well, that's they've been doing it several times already. It starts from the why and the design in first person instead of just pull up the hardware and then hand it out as this is what we got. So it's not start from how big the screen is, but more like asking the question, what should this feel like? It should be focused, immersive, with holding with two hands, like opening a book. And then we're gonna go into the next step of design is what does the interface that goes into that device going to serve, and how it's going to serve that. So somehow boundaries or limitations, oh, they should be more immersive than the iOS, but maybe not to the level of iPadOS because they're different thing. And let's define its job first, and then only fold it because we wanted to put into someone's pocket in case it's not small enough to be into it or too big to be holds on the hand. So here we see the difference that when everyone is focused on the screen and ask the software to catch up to be compatible with the screen, Apple probably defined the software's job first and then just had a body wrapped around it, and then the body happens to be foldable. So they let it to be a container to holding on the software, which hold on to doing the job they designed it supposed to do. So you might have heard about this person called Simon Sinek. He had a talk about this theory or framework called golden circle. It starts with asking why and then asking how, and then eventually defined to ask the what. And if you search internet, there are several of his talk videos available, and I highly recommend you go watch that and to help you better understand the question here. And similarly, we borrow that concept here to look at the foldable problem, and we'll see the things coming from other brands or companies, existing products. They kind of start with asking what, and then the narrative is more like, we made a foldable big screen, and we think it's useful, it can do productivity, you should buy one. But what if the design team approach the problem of making a foldable phone from more like a why side instead of what? And the narrative could be like this: we believe in focused, immersive consumption of content. A restrained OS does its job better, and it should have a body that is similar to iPad because people like screen asset. Therefore, we made this foldable that holds the content browsing task very well. It happens to be foldable and goes into a pocket. Do you want to buy one? So that's kind of the approach coming from the other side. And it actually being adjusted by this, what I call double subtraction strategy, not just kind of serving as rumors flying around. There's something we can actually see into it. From the hardware side, it used to have this iPad mini, but now the iPad mini goes into your pocket. The software side does not have this complex multitasking, multi-window situation coming from the iPad. It's just one immersive consumption of content, single application UI most likely, and it could have some kind of light dual tasking, maybe at most. But dual subtraction is not cheapness. It's not like we remove a lot of things, just make it cheap. It's actually aiming to deliver experience first demands to give you this device that's more focused and more clear, defined on the job, what it's going to do. So that's why in the previous preview, if you watch it, I told you that Apple have removed the brain from this device, which is a more exaggerated situation, but it's actually true. The truth is more kind of delicate here, if you understand it. They didn't just simply remove a brain, they can't work without a brain. They kind of refuse to transparent the wrong one directly into that product. That exact part that people has been complaining about to iPadOS for a decade, and they just kind of iron out that part, and they build a smaller one brain on purpose to fit onto that device. So if we're following this design thinking, what do we get? We don't have any concrete proof or answer yet, but from a designer's perspective, I think it may come out to two outcomes. The first result is coherence. And if you see that in last episode, we clearly stated about that thing. When other foldable phones, the outer screen says I'm a fast phone, the inner screen says slow canvas, the brain and the body kind of fighting each other, and it increases a lot of cognitive load, and user just doesn't like it. And here, the order is kind of being flipped. The body and the brain eventually join together and meet on the same thing. The body give you the lean back, two hands experience. So you have the landscape view, you got immersive, you got some lighty multitasking, but most of the time you are consuming the content in a more immersive way. Watch a video, read a book, you name it. And at the same time, the brain that supports it is also kind of restrained. It stays simple. It don't have pretended to be a laptop trying to take over all the multitasking, heavy lifting things. It just do the lightweight job well, and it's not trying to fight with all the tasks together to give you extra cognitive load. It's being simpler and then have this coherence. At the same time, if you look at the Samsung phones, they got a phone body, but they're trying to cram in the computer desktop thing to it. Samsung has been doing this so many long time. They have this thing called DeX, and they're trying to let do 10 apps at the same time out of your phone. Well, I don't think that's a successful one. It's two things fighting together inside a one like device body, but I hope Apple's foldable, if design logic holds, as I kind of speculated, is a one device that's going to agree with itself. It just tells you, I'm going to do this thing well. I'm not trying to ask you to do so many things well together. The second design result, I feel, is that the inner screen is going to be the main screen that wins the job. Now, we know that Samsung has following its data analysis and says people using the outer screen more, so they design to be tall and narrow and more like a normal phones. So the outer is the main, and as rumored, if iPhone has a foldable, it's gonna have like a passport shape, and then it's kind of not easy to hold on one hand. So they want you to use the inner screen more. The inner screen is the main screen. The challenge is the Samsung do the outer one doesn't even success, and then people would naturally ask why would Apple would be win, or it should bet on the inner screen is like the main one is going to pull it off. Well, I think the evidence is coming from three different layers. One, we have been seeing iOS and iPadOS have been doing this continuity foundation for many years, and you can do handoff and then sidecar or other things. So the user interface kind of flow from one device to another, from one size to another naturally. And it's not a kind of like people say it's a leak, which is not. Still, the iPhone, the bigger iPhones, when you hold it kind of horizontally, all the UI just automatically go into this more rectangular shape. It's been there for years. And iPad body is something you do two hands, it's a landscape, it's like a more naturally unfolding, binding switch gesture. People doesn't have to learn. And then, like I discussed in another early episode, if you still remember, that they design a friction to nudge people towards a certain direction, that the cover is being held with two hands is more lateral intentional, and then it's also pushing people to use the inner screen. But I also want to point out another bigger question which I raised in the process of exploring and then thinking of those things, is that calling the identity I was saying on the last episode is, we know that when 2011, 2010, the iPad being introduced, it once opened a new category between the Mac and iPhone. Now we have this foldable coming up. Is it going to be a new category that between iPad and iPhone? We don't know. If it's new in both hardware and software, could it open a new category? I don't have an answer for that yet, because we still have very limited information. We know it looks like it's just a shape of hardware. What it does, what it is good at, it's still like an unknown question. I don't think we can get the answer from the hardware shape, and then software is also not the answer either, even though we talk about software so much. The one layer deeper going under software is that user scenario. The product needs to be defined with a scenario first, and if the scenario can be defined, most likely people will be using it in such way, and we will know its role, and then we will know if it's open a new category to stand on itself, or it's actually being merged into something that already existed. If we look at today's iPhone or today's iPad, everyone should do that. Look at when you're using those devices. If there's a moment that you think it doesn't feel right, the phone doesn't feel right, the iPad doesn't feel right, both kind of feeling awkward, maybe that's the point. The answer is emerging itself from that scenario or time of being you're experiencing it is going to open a new category. So that's my guess. After all, I haven't seen OS, and nobody has the software. We don't know what it looks like. But at least we know that we won't spending this whole week simply talking about the creases, the sizes, the round corners, the things. We actually learned that this one design decision is actually really matter, is what to design first and how to approach it. Now, until we discover more updates and information, I will just digest it on more and I will see you in next one when I got a new thing to share.